No doubt you're familiar with the phrase love at first sight, but have you ever heard of love at first worn? No, of course you haven't, because I've literally just made it up. But I think that might be just what happened to me, or between me and this Boldr a little while ago. Boldr, the Singaporean micro brand, reached out to me inviting me to review one of their watches. I went on their website, watched a few YouTube videos, and then went back to them and said, yeah, please, your watches look pretty nice. They sent me this Venture, a titanium field watch. I unboxed it. I posted that video on I Like Watches Too, but then I started to wear this watch and I went from thinking, well, it's quite a nice micro brand to, I really like this micro brand. I went back onto their website and looked at their other designs, and I don't think there's one on there that I don't like. I can't explain it. I just like the look of all their watches, and I really like this one. It's awesome. On some occasions, I do find it a little bit more difficult perhaps to understand and put into words what it is about a watch or a micro brand that I find appealing, because, well, prior to receiving this watch, yes, I was familiar with Boldr watches, but I just was fairly neutral towards them. Yeah, I thought they looked pretty good, but now that I've received this watch, I've unboxed it, the tingles were there. I immediately knew I liked the look of it, but I've just grown to really like this watch. I love the way it looks. I love the color. I love the specifications. I think they've nailed it, quite honestly. Yeah, it's a cracking watch. It's not without its weaknesses. I mean, there are a few minor weaknesses, but yeah, this watch has forced me to take a second look at their website and this micro brand, and I am impressed. I mean, look at it. Just look at this thing. It's a little bit different. It's a bit unique, and it's not your typical field watch. But it's not crass, it's not garish, it's different, but without being, well, ugly. And yeah, I think they've done a really good job of making this watch stand out. I mean, it helps the fact that they've used this color. I really like this color. But yeah, I think they've done a cracking job. Let me run through some of the specifications. I'll put the dimensions and the weight and all that sort of stuff on the screen in the bottom right hand corner when I pop it on my wrist. But yeah, the specifications. It's made of titanium, sapphire crystal, AR coating, NH35 inside this thing, 200 meters of water resistance, screw down case back, screw down crown. They refer to themselves, or this brand, as an outfitter brand. Are you familiar with outfitter brands? If you're not, well, it's a name given to brands that produce equipment, maybe clothing for people that do outdoor activities. And I think that's another reason why I've grown to really like this micro brand. They are clearly trying to produce not just good looking, affordable watches, but watches that you can actually use day to day when you're doing things like hiking and climbing and swimming and diving. The specifications back up the designs, and yeah, I mean, you're going to pay, I wouldn't say a premium for these watches. An NH35 powered titanium field watch for under £300 I think is pretty reasonable. There are, of course, more affordable examples out there, but I don't think any of them look as good as this. They've matched the hardware to the case as well, so you've got titanium hardware. The finish is the same. Interestingly enough, I have looked at some other watches recently with this sort of bead blasted matte finish, and I explained in those reviews that I'm not a massive fan of this finishing, but I think that was when perhaps I didn't like the look of a case. I find sometimes it's the combination of how a watch looks and the finishing used, this is my experience anyway, that determines whether or not I like that particular finishing. Yes, I do prefer polished and brushed surfaces, but for this watch, for some reason, again, I'm struggling to really understand it and explain, but for this particular watch, I really like the finishing. I really like it. It suits the watch, doesn't it? And yeah, I mean, I just love the K-shape. Love it. I can't get over it. Really like it. Nice strap as well. The color is fantastic. I love this color. It's a double pass nylon strap, and the watch is quite deep. And so, 200 meters of water resistance. Did I mention that? 200 meters of water resistance. So yeah, it's not the slimmest or the flattest of cases. And yeah, perhaps a double pass nylon strap isn't ideal, but I've managed to wear this on my average sized wrist, and I don't find it sits too high on my wrist. So yeah, I mean, of course you could swap it out, but I think it just goes so nicely with the dial, doesn't it? I love the hands as well. I love the finish on the hands. The print on the dial is beautiful, and they've sort of color matched some of the print on the dial to the titanium case finish. It's a sort of matte, dark, sort of titanium silver color. You've got lume on this watch as well. I'll show you the lume degrading at the end of the video. It seems pretty decent though. The hands are certainly quite strong. Whenever lume is printed directly onto the dial, it's never going to last as well as it does on dive watches, for example, where the lume is filled into applied indices. But yeah, I mean, the lume seems to be strong enough. And again, they've color coordinated the date wheel. It matches the dial and that sort of silver color. All these little touches, I think, just combine and come together to make this watch just that little bit more appealing. I think that's what it is. They've just put lots of little touches on this watch that I think have just, well, they've nailed it. I really do think they've nailed it. I love it. And there's the screw down case, but you've got some specifications and the logo, and you can just see it's a little bit grubby. I think that's actually just from the strap. It is to be expected. Titanium that's finished like this is just prone to looking a bit grubby sometimes. Let's not forget this is an Outfitter brand. They're producing watches that are marketed towards people that do outdoor activities, and yeah, they are built to withstand some pretty vigorous, well, torture, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the odd grubby mark I think is not a problem at all. I should stop being so precious, shouldn't I? And there's the NH35 inside the case, 21,600 beats per hour, hacking and hand wind. You're all very familiar with this movement by now, I suspect. A plastic movement holder and a very substantial green O-ring helping towards the 200 meters of water resistance. The plastic movement holder, there's pros and cons to both plastic and metal movement holders. Although I suspect it is a cost-saving exercise to some degree, there is an argument to be had that plastic movement holders actually allow movements a little bit more room when they're being, or when the watches are being knocked and bumped around. So yeah, you know, it could be that. It is a field watch after all. Right, here it is then on the supplied strap on my roughly average sized wrist, and I am genuinely struggling to find anything about this watch that I don't like. Yes, it's not perfect, and there will be people that complain about the height and maybe the gaps, you know, between the lugs. I don't know, but I just like it. There really isn't anything I'm complaining about. It's all coming together to be a watch that really appeals to me. I love even the color of the titanium against the color of the strap and the dial. It all just seems to work. Hard to explain. I'm trying. You see, I really do think there's some synergy going on, because here it is on a very nice premium Zulu Diver sailcloth strap. And yeah, it looks nice, and actually it goes pretty well because the stitching matches the titanium case. But for me, well, the tingles have faded a little bit. I definitely think the strap has a lot to do with it. It's everything coming together to produce a watch that I personally find really appealing. And once again, here it is on another aftermarket Zulu Diver Velcro strap. And for me, once again, it's lost part of its appeal. So let me just quickly put it back on the supplied strap, I think. Right, there we go, back on the original strap, and what a difference. Honestly, I think it's incredible how much difference this strap makes to the overall look of this watch. Right, 274 British pounds for this watch. Yes, I know that there are more affordable NH35 powered titanium field watches out there, but yeah, I really don't think they look as good as this. I suspect the specifications aren't quite as strong. 200 meters of water resistance, let's not forget. Yeah, I think that's decent value for money. And if you sign up to their newsletter, I believe you might be able to get an extra 10% off. Right, guys, let me know what you think in the comments section.